Today's topic is document PDFs using folder mill. I've set a number of actions here in my project. We're going to look at the action server in the DDM administration client. We're then going to look at the action client, folder mill, the tool that generates the PDF, and we're then going to do a simple test on the server, and then we'll do a test using the DDM Office client. Okay, so on the server, CAD and neutral files. Okay, if we go down to Action Server, Other Documents. So we have the ability here to switch on the Action Server, and the options are pretty self-explanatory. You know, you can limit it to latest issue only. You can only create PDFs at the point when a file is released, for example. I tend to leave it open so that even while you're working on documents, the PDFs are being generated immediately. Okay, so there's some configurations options here. We've put in some hard-coded options in here like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Visio, Publisher, and Photoshop, because those file formats are supported by the folder mill engine. Okay, now folder mill also supports other file formats, and I will show you the web page where that information is in a minute. So I've added to this TXT files, MSG files, JPEG files, and PNG. So these file extensions are separated with a comma. Okay, you'll be able to see this on the video. And we also now have the ability to not only bring in PDF images, but also other formats as well. Okay, so an example of this is we've got a customer who has a completely separate tool that generates output files, and DDM can monitor a folder, and when it delivers a file, DDM automatically brings it in and links it to the parent. So there's some nice tools. You can basically extend it yourself if you have the in-house capabilities. The ones I'm going to show you today are all just configuration options. So this is the action server side, and we can come back to this if we need to. The action client, okay, I need to relaunch this as the administrator because it has to have administrative privileges based on the edits that we're going to make. Okay, so if I go back to neutral files, action client. So what we're looking at here is converting documents to PDF, this top section. What you need to do is specify an input folder, an output folder, and a folder for errors if applicable. Okay, so, and this is on the server machine. Okay, you can install the action client on a non-server machine. Okay, so if you're doing a lot of this PDF generation in the background and you want it to run on a separate client, you could spin up a virtual machine or have a separate PC that is just sitting there creating neutral files for you. So the action server is the configuration on your server machine, but the action client can run either on the server or on a separate client machine. Okay, so these are my input and output folders. There's an option here to automatically create a JPEG preview, and we'll see that. Now, the old way of doing this was using a plugin tool called Ghost Script. We don't need that anymore, which is why it's been switched off in here. For anybody who would rather use the Ghost Script engine, if I just go into my favorites here and go to Ghost Script, this is the location here where you would get the download, and it's this top option here. But don't do that because there is a new way of doing this, which I think is a much better way. Okay, let me just minimize this. So this is the configuration, and basically all we're doing here is saying if we have a document in the database, we're going to send that document out to the incoming folder. The folder mill engine is going to pick up the file, convert it into a PDF, create me a thumbnail JPEG at the same time, and it's going to put the file in the output folder and we're monitoring that. So we then pick up the file, bring it in and attach it to the document inside DDM. Okay, and we'll see it all happening. It'll be a lot clearer when you see the mechanism happening. Okay, so that's the action server and the action client. Again, to reiterate, the action client can run on any machine. You'll also see here that you can specify a start and end time. I leave mine running all of the time, but if you only wanted to run this during certain hours of the day, it can also work in that way as well. Okay, go back to my project. The next thing we're going to look at is the folder mill setup. So on my server machine, I have a tool installed called folder mill, and this is the folder mill control panel. I'm going to go back to Internet Explorer and go to the folder mill website. So this is the location where you can download the folder mill product. Again, we don't sell this product and we don't support this product, but we talk to it, which is how we provide the solution. It's approximately $400 US. I'm not entirely sure. But if you wanted to try this, you can download, there's a free runtime version of it. And what it does is it puts a little watermark at the bottom of your PDF that says folder mill. So you can try this free of charge, and then obviously if you like it and you don't want the little watermark, you can then purchase it as an option, but not through CSI. Okay, so you download it from here. The installation is pretty simple. Click, 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 and this is the folder mill tool. Okay, now I've just called this DDM converter. You can give it any name that you want, and my hot folder is my incoming folder here. So I've specified that this is my incoming folder, and you'll see here on my server machine I've got a folder called folder mill incoming. Okay, these settings are pretty standard. Okay, and we have the processed folder, so when something has been processed, it puts them into this folder at the bottom. So the three windows that I've opened are the incoming files, the output files, and the files that have been processed. So it's just a sausage machine. We're passing stuff through it. Okay. Move original input files to processed when finished, and therefore you specify where to put them. And after 2 days, it will clean this folder out so it's not building up too many files in the background. Okay. I've got two configuration options here. You can see I'm highlighting them. The first one is that I want in the output folder a JPEG image, true color, with 60% quality. You can adjust all of these to whatever your preferences are, and I've said I only need it to be 150 dpi, don't resize it. So that's my first configuration option for JPEG, because I want a thumbnail preview of my document as well as the PDF. If I hop back to my configuration here and I go back to the action server, you'll see here the additional file type is .jpeg, because I want it to bring the JPEG in. Okay, I'm going to go back to here. So my second configuration, and in order for this to work, if you want JPEG and PDF, you have to put the JPEG before that, and you can just move them. You can drag them forwards and backwards. Okay, now the convert to PDF, again, this is the output folder, and there are no other settings that you need. We're just saying we want a PDF of the document. Okay, so we can stop the service from running, and then we can start the service from running. Okay, normally it runs in the background, so you don't need to have it logged in. So I'm going to leave that running in the background, and this here is the action client. This has to be running with the interface switched on for this tool to work. So another reason why you might want to put this tool on a separate PC is because some IT people don't like to have something running on the server real time. So it's an option as to how you want to do that. You can run the action client on the server or on a separate computer. So I've got it running at the moment here. Now, before we actually use the action client, I'm going to do a simple test with folder mill. I've got a sample document here. I'm going to drag this and I'm going to move it into the incoming folder. So all I'm going to do here is simulate testing that folder mill is working correctly. Okay? So if I move that file to there, it will disappear. The file's disappeared, and in the output folder, we now see a JPEG image and a preview, a JPEG and a PDF. So folder mill has created those two files for us, and it's put the finished file in the processed folder. So that means the folder mill engine is working. So that's a good way of testing that folder mill is set up correctly. The next test that I want to do is to test it by loading a document into DDM. I'm going to move DDM over here and I'm going to tile them side by side with the action client. So we can see the action client here. In fact, what I'm going to do is put that over the other side. Should have put it full screen like that. Okay, so we can see the action client and we can see our input and output folders. I can get rid of this file now. So let me put that like this so we can see it all happening. I have a Word document here that I'm going to bring this into DDM. It's a brand new document, so clearly there's no preview image and there's no PDF that's been generated. So if I drag and drop this document into DDM, do I want to remove it from the file system? Normally you would, but I won't because it's just a demonstration. So we have this new document inside DDM, and you see there's no preview image in the preview panel here. What we should do, see on the action client, is this will run periodically, and there's a setting for how often this runs. So we just need to wait for a minute, and then it will identify the fact that we've got a document in the database that does not have a PDF image. Right, it's running. So we see here, it's picked up this document. It's going to put the document, and it's happened already. So we didn't even see it go in the incoming folder, but now what we have is these files have automatically been processed by the engine, and it's been cleared out. If I go back to DDM now, let's go full screen, and I select my document, what we now see here is we have our PDF of the document automatically generated. You'll also see that we've got our text-based watermarks on the documents as well. So this is a really good thing because you're probably familiar with having watermarks on your drawings so that you can, configure text-based watermarks. You can also have this on documents as well. Now, typically, and it's worth mentioning this, a document would have different watermarks to a drawing because of the borders and the footers and things. Okay, in the admin tool, and it's worth showing this at the same time, under watermarks, let me say for, I possibly got one for all documents, documents work in progress. So I've created a specific watermark configuration here that's for documents, not drawings. You can see this area here where I'm moving the mouse. So for documents, all sizes, I've got this watermark where I want it shown on the PDF because the watermark is applied to the PDF, not the native file itself. So if you're looking at this, configuring it, it's worth looking at watermarks at the same time. So if I look in the attachments here, we've got a PDF and a thumbnail image. You do have the option of displaying thumbnail and not PDF in this preview panel. Also, to show that, if I look at the properties here, if I open the properties, we don't show the PDF in this window at the moment. You would only see the thumbnail JPEG image. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do on a different computer, I'm going to drag and drop an email in. So let me just start. You won't be able to, oh no, you will be able to see this. I'm going to log in. I'm actually going to log in as the same user. Oops, can't spell my own name. Like this. And the reason for me doing this is I want to drag and drop an email into the database as well. Because if we look on the server, under the action server, we've also got in here .msg. So if you see that there, for message files, for emails. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my DDM. This is a dummy Outlook client, so we can see my emails. And previously, to bring an email into DDM, you would have to drop it on the widget in the AnyDocs tool. That's not necessary on the new version. You do not need to use this. If I say drop form always visible, you may be familiar with this widget thing here that you used to drop emails onto. Okay, if you're not familiar with that, don't worry, because now we can just drag an email from Outlook and drop it straight onto DDM. We can drop multiples as well. Okay, so I'm going to drop that email into the database. If I then go back to my server machine and we look at the action client, the action client should pick up the fact. In fact, let me just, I'm going to look at my recent files so we see both. Hold on. Make sure that's running in the background. Okay, it's running, so it's found a new file. If I look at my recent files here, there's the email that I've just imported. There's no preview of it at the moment. There's the document that we did a minute ago. But when this action client has finished, okay, there is now an automatic PDF preview of the email as well. Okay, so really, really useful, because it means, you know, people looking at things inside DDM, you don't have to load a document to read the document. This preview window allows you to, you know, see the PDF native, and obviously you can do things like grabbing text and copying information and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so another thing to talk about with the folder mill tool is I've mentioned on the server that you can add your own file formats. If I go to the folder mill web page, this page on the folder mill site tells you all of the different file extensions that it can convert. There's lots of things. I mean, I don't use that many, but it might be that there's other ones that you use as a business that you want converting into PDF. I mean, goodness knows what all of that is. I've not heard of most of it. But that's where to look for other file formats that you might want converting into PDF. So, let's have a recap on what we've looked at. So under that, we've had a look at the Action server setup, the Action client setup, which can be on the server or a separate computer. Folder mill, where to find it on the website. It's available as a free runtime version. If you want to buy it, it's about $400 US. We don't sell and support it, so you'd need to get that directly. And we did a test by dragging and dropping files into the incoming and outgoing folders. And then we did a test through the DDM client with a brand new document. And we also did a small test on an email. There you go. There's our email example, and there's our document example. It also supports Photoshop, so which I was particularly pleased with, because, for example, if I go to my documents, marketing, let me think, images, artwork, you know, I've got a Photoshop file here. So this is a PSD file from Photoshop, and of course there is the image that's been converted into a PDF. And you can say actual size. So if you were checking graphics and images, it can convert those for you automatically as well. So really useful tool. And more customers are, even within engineering, but even outside of engineering, people are starting to manage more documentation, project documents and product definition documents and process documents in the database. and this PDF conversion means they're much more accessible to people.